Welcome to Vision to Venture. I'm Eddie, and I'm here to uncover the realities of scaling and building a tech startup. Each week, I speak to leaders within the tech space with their insights and advice on how to found, fund, and frame a tech startup. So make sure to follow and subscribe to never miss an episode. Welcome back to another episode of Vision to Venture. We're delighted to have Bianca Furtuna joining us. With an extensive background at Microsoft and currently serving as Head of Data Science at Founders Factory, Bianca brings expertise driving innovation within startups and leveraging technology. Hey Bianca, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. Very well, thank you. Thank you for coming down and joining me on Vision to Venture.
Yes, very excited to be here.
So we're going to be talking about a lot.
Yes.
But just to sort of kick things off and start with, do you want to just share a little bit more about your journey in the tech industry and particularly your transition into the field of machine learning and data science?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short because I can talk about this for maybe too long. But yeah, so my background is actually in electrical and electronic engineering. That's my degree from university. And I've always been into maths, physics, and computer science. So I was always interested in the field of tech.
Yeah.
And during university, I've done quite a lot of different internships. So initially when I went to uni, my dream was to become chips engineer for Apple.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time that they actually did not design any chips. So that was something I found out during my university degree. And then I started trying to understand what are my different options. So I did an internship trying to start a PhD almost in my university, and I figured out that wasn't really for me. I didn't really want to do it. Then I worked at ARM for a bit, actually designing chips and processors.
Yeah.
And again, I just realized I wanted something slightly different, more tech heavy. So I did a short internship at IBM, where I really found my love for computer science and machine learning, and also building products, because our internship was almost like building a small little company together. It was 4 of us.
Yeah.
And that really almost took me to that path. So after uni, I joined Microsoft as a technical evangelist, and that was a role that combined a few things I was really interested in, mainly combining tech and coding with customer interaction as well as some public speaking. So that really allowed me to develop my skills in a more broad sense per se.
Yeah.
But more interestingly, I actually started in Internet of Things. So one of my first jobs is to do a lot of sensors and make everything, almost the world, more embedded and connected.
Okay.
And I've done that for about a year, when I really realized that gathering data is really interesting and, is connected to my degree, but I really wanted to do something with that data.
Yeah.
And that's where I went into the field of machine learning and AI. So I did a lot of courses and self-teaching, and then I started kind of moving into that direction, and I've been then ever since. It's been almost a decade now.
And because you was at Microsoft quite some time as well, wasn't you?
Yeah.
How was that?
So I'm what people call a boomerang.
Okay.
Because I started my career in a way at Microsoft, and then I went out to work for a smaller company for a bit, and then I went back to Microsoft when a really great new role opened up. And then now I left again to explore a bit more in the startup world.
Yeah, the startup world. I mean, I know it's obviously not been too long compared to the amount of time that you spent at Microsoft, but have you got a preference, or is it pros and cons of both?
I think I don't necessarily have a preference. I think it's really interesting to work in different organizations in different sizes of organization. It really teaches you a lot. And in the startups, especially now we work with some really early on startups, there's just a really different journey, and you need to prioritize different things. The team is set slightly differently. And then as you grow from small to medium size to scale up and to a really big company, you have different challenges and you need to learn different things. So for me personally, I love just learning, and I'm really curious about what makes different people in different organizations tick. It was just an incredible journey to be able to experience it all. So,
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, for me, it would just be It'll be the struggle of just learning more and more people's names going into a big company, but I'm sure you don't have to struggle with that. That's just one of my struggles.
Yeah, definitely. There's a trick to it, so yes.
Oh, you'll have to teach me that one day.
100%.
Because I'm terrible with names. This episode is sponsored by DS Group. DS Group help connect machine learning and software engineering talent with groundbreaking opportunities in the field of AI. So whether you're a company searching for exceptional tech talent or an individual seeking that perfect role, DS Group is your go-to solution. Thanks to DS Group for sponsoring Vision to Venture. And so how would you say that your experience at Founders Factory has sort of influenced your perspective on nurturing startups?
Yeah, so one really amazing thing about Founders Factory is the ability to work with a lot of different startups at the same time, at different journeys, working on different products in different industries. So it did allow me to experience, again, a broad variety of startups and founders and different problem sets. One thing I would say is I believe speed is very important, so having a really good momentum over like what you're building and experimenting and testing and going to market super fast, but also focus. So knowing the problem you're going to solve, knowing the space and going really deep and focusing on that problem and then iterating and testing in that space is very important. I'm slightly biased as well, because to me that does sound like solving a machine learning problem, so it's like almost perfect. But yeah, I think those are a couple of things that I've learned and a few things I've enjoyed working with early stage startups.
That's great. I mean, how long have you been at Founders Factory for now?
I think it's like 9 months now.
Okay, so it's, well, yeah, enough time to sort of go through the works and get settled into that sort of new position. And how are you sort of finding, obviously, going from obviously working for Microsoft, such a the team must have been big and much bigger corporation, and then just going into something so much smaller? Was it a sudden change? Was it quite daunting, or did you just sort of go with
not
it?
at all. I worked at a small company before.
Of course, yeah.
Actually I joined a startup in January that kind of ran out of money, so I went through that experience as well. I would say in the last year I experienced a lot of stuff in a very concentrated amount of time. But the change from Microsoft wasn't very big. I think, of course, Microsoft is a really big company, but it's really depending on the team and the department that you're on. And our department felt almost like a startup. It was little technical island, and we did a lot of cool stuff. We did experiment with state-of-the-art technology, and we were doing stuff very fast, putting things into production in a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
So actually everything we've done was in a very short time frame. So kind of the attitude, the culture, the speed of building was very similar, I would say. So that made the transition much easier.
Good, I'm pleased. And so, obviously, working for a startup now, would you say that there's any advice that you would give to startup founders that would be looking to incorporate machine learning into their products and services?
100%, especially in today's environment where AI and machine learning is everywhere. And I think it's super tempting. I mean, every founder I speak to, they all ask me the same questions, like, how can I make my company or startup more AI? Because, everybody's doing it. It does seem like investors are really keen to just invest in AI, at least at first sight. But I think it's really important not to lose focus on what you're really trying to solve. AI and machine learning are tools, essentially, and they're helping you solve a problem in a better way, but they shouldn't really be the core of your business necessarily, unless you're building machine learning tooling, which then it becomes the core of your business, but it should just be a tool for the job. I think a lot of people focus too much on having AI rather than truly using AI to solve the problem. I think that would be my advice. I also think that probably any company could use more data and AI within their their organization, either internally or as a part of a feature of their product. There's just so much potential there that normally goes untapped.
There's so much you can do with it.
Yes.
There's so many different sort of variations of obviously AI, machine learning, deep learning, and all of these other things. So what skills and knowledge do you believe to be that are like sort of crucial for aspiring machine learning engineers to focus on developing? What is it that you would look out for your team?
So
doesn't have to be at Founders Factory as well.
No,
just
of course.
Your dream machine learning
I did
team.
hire a lot of applied machine learning scientists across a lot of regions and kind of continents. So I have potentially a biased response towards a specific type of engineer, but I think more generally people should really focus their skills both on what people call soft skills, like making sure they can communicate the knowledge and concept and what they can do really well. But on the technical side, having a good knowledge of machine learning algorithm, how to deploy them in practice, and as well as the engineering side of things. I think in data science that gets overlooked very often, not being able to write code, not being able to build it in a product and build that product to market. I think that is really, really critical. A lot of the time, the fun thing in data science is like playing around with data or like stats and maths, and that is really important, but I wouldn't say that is really critical. The engineering side for me is something that I would definitely focus more on. Yeah.
Would you say learning more than one programming language would be essential, or do you think just stick with?
I think stick with Python. I think I know both R and Python, so they were both at the beginning, when we had data science become a thing, people were talking about R and Python and which one would kind of, not like win the war, but essentially be at the forefront of data science and machine learning. And I think Python is definitely the winner there.
I've had multiple people tell me Python. I had an interview with this one guy once. He was like, Python's king. Python's king.
Yeah.
Why can't Python be queen? But yeah, no, I've heard so many people say that. And the thing is, Python is obviously, I mean, not that I'm obviously an engineer myself, but recruiting in the market, you just hear about all these, like, just speaking to all these machine learning engineers, data scientists, NLP engineers, computer vision. Python is used by everyone, even software engineers. It's like, back end, full stack engineers, they all use Python. And so it's like, if you don't know Python, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, and it's such a flexible language, and it's really good for beginners as well. So that's what I really like about Python. It's not really hard to learn, so it allows you to get into the coding mindset really easily, and then it has so much flexibility that you can go into machine learning, you can go into, as you said, full stack engineers. Everything. Now you can even do some I don't want to call it front end, but like light front end. But you can just do so much. So it's, if you really don't know what you're doing, like what you want to do, maybe you think you want to go into data science, but maybe you want to end up being a full stack engineer. I think it's a great choice because it gives a lot of options for your future
Unless
steps.
You're like me and you can only get as far as hello world and then give up.
I'm sure if you stick with it, you'll go very far.
I don't think coding was ever for me. But I logged on, I looked at it. I saw hello world and thought, no, it's not for me. I just turned it off and deleted the program. But it's fun and we're here now and I can talk about it instead.
That's brilliant.
And so, do you have any advice for any machine learning engineers aiming to collaborate effectively with startup founders who might not have technical expertise?
Yes, 100%. I think communication is key. Clear communication is essential. And when you're starting your collaboration, I think it's very important to set some almost like common language and terminology. I think that's something that data scientists and machine learning engineers, like myself included, struggle with because we're sometimes really deep into the problem space and we have all of these acronyms and ways of describing things that could be confusing, or they can mean really different things for people that are not in that problem space. So setting that common vocabulary that you can effectively communicate, and also like understand each other when you talk about like risks and potential blockers would be essential. I think, I don't know, the more I am in this industry and the more I like either part of teams or lead teams with a wide variety of different people, technical, non-technical people coming together, there's nothing that can beat clear communication. I think that is just essential across the board, and being able to have that honest, open and transparent way of talking about risks and problems and how you're going to solve it together. It's critical.
And definitely what is like having the right sort of skill set in terms of like communication and just being able to sort of elaborate on what it is that you're looking for, just being able to get across to people. It's one of the big, like, best skills you can have out there, I think.
Yes.
Clear communication skills. It helps. And so startups often have ambitious timelines and like expectations. How do you manage the expectations when it comes to implementation and impact of machine learning solutions?
Yes, I think that is a very tough question, but I also think it's really critical. I'm a really big fan of setting, again, clear expectations and almost embedding what you're trying to achieve with your machine learning development and iteration within every single one of your product iterations as well. So I think a lot of people tend to decouple sometimes, like, you know, the product you're building or the problem you're trying to solve with the tech, and then you almost have like two work streams or two roadmaps, and that happens in quite a few startups. You have the tech and then you have the product, for some reason they're not joined together. So doing it in constant, like, continuous iteration together and really focusing on one thing is really, really important. I actually think, like this idea of like setting up a hypothesis or assumption you're trying to test in your startup and going very quickly and trying to understand if it's going to work or not, it's a very effective way to keep and gain momentum with your startup and go and get the right product to market really, really quickly. And I think on the data science stuff, that is a very big advantage, because hypothesis-driven development is something you normally do in data science, so you really understand how that works as a data scientist or machine learning engineer. So taking advantage of like almost that common way of approaching problems is really, really powerful. So try to embed it together. And it's going to give you really great results. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, considering you hear it often that there are very ambitious timelines, and there's obviously all these like deadlines that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
What would you say in your history of obviously working in the field has been like your most stressful sort of amount, like your most stressful timeline? Like, what's the shortest amount of time you've had to get something complete?
So complete is hard. I don't think you can ever have something complete, but like good enough, I think is probably a week or like a couple of days. And that's that is definitely possible. There's just a lot of things you can do in a week to just have almost a V0 or a V1, something that can really prove the potential of what you're trying to achieve and showcase that capability. And that's why I'm saying it kind of, if machine learning fits really well, because it's not really like software engineer or like you build a website, you kind of work 6 months, you have a website and you launch the website, that's really great. Machine learning and data science works in iterations, so you build the first version is going to be probably okay, and then you get the feedback in and you build on that. In 6 months you probably had 20-30 different mini launches and your product got better, but at every single point of time you had something to take to your customers, get feedback on, and bring it back and make it like really, really good. So the advice I would give to engineers or founders, do not let go of the iteration process of things. You're never going to get something that's going to be fantastic if you work 6 months on it. Yeah, it's just try and error, experiment, test, get the feedback in, act on that feedback, and carry on building on top rather than just trying to get something perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of things in life, isn't it? Trial and error is always the best way forward.
Exactly,
because it's
yeah.
like, at least you can figure out what's going wrong, act on that, make it better, and then you've already got an improvement from there. And so this is actually an interesting question, something I like to find out a lot about, is being a woman in tech.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of them, unfortunately. What do you believe are the most sort of pressing challenges being a woman in tech, and is there anything that you've encountered or faced along the way in your career that has sort of like made it clear that there's not many women in tech?
Yeah, I
And
think
that made it difficult, maybe.
Yeah, I think it becomes more difficult the longer you stay in tech, I would say. I never used to think that when I started my career.
Yeah.
I think for me, and of course everybody has different experiences, but for me it's never something really big.
Okay.
I think people always think it's like, it's either like a big incident or it's something like huge, like you got passed over from a promotion, and that can happen quite a lot. But I do feel like it's the small little things that kind of add up over time. So it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly seeing the small little things, like it just builds up over time. So it makes it more and more difficult to almost effectively operate within the industry. I think for me, I've only started noticing the challenges when I started working at my university. It was a technical university. We had very few women in my degree, but I never really thought about it. So I think that's because of my background. So I'm Romanian, and in Romania we actually have a lot of women that go into tech. So my high school was a technical high school. We had like a maths and computer science profile, like it works slightly differently from the UK. And we have, I don't know the exact numbers, but there were like 16 girls and like 6 or 7 guys. So like the percentage was completely different. And when you go into university, it's actually a very high percentage as well, and in the field of work too. So I never really thought about it. And then at university, I never thought about it as well. I never really felt it. But when I came into work, that's where things started to become very different. I think, I remember one of my first few weeks on the job, somebody came and asked me, I was like, oh, you're one of the new graduates. Yeah, we started hiring women now because, there's none. So, I guess you're one of the ones that made it through.
Oh, wow.
So it's just that I think there's small little comments that you kind of brush off, but over time they do kind of add up. And we've done a lot of different programs or initiatives. So I was part of like either mentoring schemes, or we did like days for girls to code, and like we had different type of academies and that sort of thing. And I think those are all really, really good initiatives. But I think there was this like numbers that you have a pipeline problem, of course, that is you have less women that go into tech. But I think the biggest challenge is that from those women that come into tech at graduate levels or like entry-level position, very few stay up in 5 to 10 years. The big majority of women leave the tech industry. So I think that even if we bring more girls and women in tech, that problem is still going to persist if we don't really fix the working environment, which I think is more pressing at the moment.
No, I totally agree. And it does make things more difficult as well. And it's like you said, all these different comments that sort of add up over time. It's just unfortunate. Obviously, it's not seen as a more sort of inclusive world. Obviously, the tech world, and it's a shame that it obviously makes things more difficult for women, because obviously, there are many, many women in tech, and I've spoken to quite a few now, obviously, on this podcast, as well as just in general being a recruiter. And it is interesting because they're like, even when it comes to sort of sourcing for a role, that you just don't see many sort of females in machine learning, and there aren't as many obviously as there are men. Like the ratio is drastically different, which is sad to say. But I mean, it does seem like things are starting to sort of go in a different direction, and it's obviously for the better. So fingers crossed it gets there. But no, I agree with you, and it's sad to hear it, but that's the world we live in.
Yes, well, I think it's also important to, like, at least from myself, I try to improve it as much as I can.
Yeah,
I think it's really important to have the conversation, because I just don't think any of this really happens necessarily with bad intention, but a lot of it is really subconscious. So I think by talking about it, hopefully we're gonna like at least address or make people aware of the unconscious bias that they have and they're bringing into their working relationships as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And how crucial is like mentorship or having role models for women pursuing careers in tech? And how can mentorship programs benefit both individuals and the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think this is it's a very interesting question. I think role models are essential. It's really important to have, or at least to know that there's people there, and this is like across all like different like spectrums of like different groups, like disadvantaged, underrepresented groups, different type of like minorities in the workspace. It's really important to have people that look like you, that you identify with, that are in places that you aspire to get to. I think that kind of gives you hope and shows you that there is a way. So role models are essentials. I think without that, that's why you see a lot of like people drop from tech, because they feel like the industry was not designed for them, is not going into the right direction, so they give up on it. I think mentorship programs are good, but I do believe is really tricky to make them really, really effective. I've been part of a lot of different mentorship program, and I haven't really seen them kind of being successful for a very long time. Maybe they're quite good for like a couple of months, and they do work for a little bit, but they don't really have a long-term success. I think, or I truly believe in organic mentorship. So like really finding mentors that you can work with, that you relate to, that you get along, and you can build that like great relationship, like trustworthy as well, that you can talk to them and you can really tell them your problems. I think that is critical, but I think it's really hard for people to find and to know how to approach those types of individuals to become their mentors. So that's where I think mentorship programs could be very effective, by like teaching people to be mentees and to find the mentors that can really help them progress their careers. I think that's where mentorship programs can be really effective.
But I guess it's also, I mean, not that I would know, but is it also a case of finding somebody that like works with you? You need to ensure that your mentor, I mean, I guess it's like anything. It's like even getting friends and things like that. It's like you need to make sure you get along with them in order to reap the benefits of that
and I think there's different type of mentorship programs as well. So I have had a lot of different mentors, and I mentor a lot of people as well. But I mentor people for different things. So I think it's also really important to understand that. And that's why I think kind of somebody teaching you how to be a mentor and a mentee is very important, because you can have people that, as you say, they can help you on the technical side of things and almost like coach you and like help you like sharpen your technical skills. But then you also have like career mentors, so people that really understand and help you to progress your career. Then you can have communication mentors. You can have mentors that help you with different type of skill sets. So like really understanding what you're trying to develop and the direction you want to go to, and finding the people that can effectively help you is very important. And that's something that it's almost like a skill. I think that you kind of need to practice it, get with it, and you'll become better identifying those people.
Absolutely.
So always start. If you've seen someone and you think you can learn from them, just reach out and see if they can give you half an hour of their time, and start with that and see where it goes.
And then just see if you two get along.
Yes, exactly. That is crucial.
If you don't, find someone else.
Exactly, yeah. Trial and error. I think it happens with everything.
Everything in life. Just trial and error your entire way through life. Oh God, that's basically what I'm doing.
Well, you're secretly a data scientist.
Maybe I should go into it. I can't work Python. Hello World confused me too much. That's maybe not. We'll just I'll recruit them instead.
Okay,
I can do that. And what initiatives or approaches do you believe are most effective in encouraging young girls and women to pursue STEM fields and careers in technology?
Yeah, so I think almost having discovery days are very, very like essential. Just showing people the potential and like having them like speak to like women without applying too much pressure. It's actually very interesting. I've heard a comment, somebody like kind of shared this comment with me a few years back, and it threw me back a little bit because I was like, oh God, I didn't really think of that. And it was like someone's daughter at work. And they, this like person was trying to kind of help them like understand more about kind of the tech world and provide like role models, and they were like showing them an article about somebody that like was, I don't know, they had a promotion or they did something really impressive. And the comment that was heard and kind of stuck with me was like, oh great, another role model that I like now feel pressure to follow into the steps of. And that kind of like really surprised me, because maybe sometimes we do go the other way. Like we're kind of showing this like role models that are like successful and they're like, look, they like achieved, they went through the pressure and like they persevered, they were really determined, and they kind of like, now they like almost like ended up like making it to the other side, but we don't really openly talk about some of these struggles and how hard there is, or like the people that kind of failed. And maybe we are putting too much pressure on the young generation. So trying to have some empathy and to also understand is really, really important. So having almost those kind of open discovery initiative where people can bond and like communicate and understand a bit more about their options. Yes, I think would be incredible. And then,
are there many of those?
I don't think they are. They're normally super structured. So I think structure brings with it some maybe constraints. I don't think they are, but I've seen some where people come into the office and you just have a chat, and we used to do some of those at Microsoft, and those will be like really fun. People really like yeah, exactly. And then some like really fun activities. I almost say like by women for women, like designed by women for women, or designed by girls for girls. I think I've actually seen one where there was this like young girl who got really into coding, and then she started designing the activities for her classmates, and they were things that they cared about. And I think that is very crucial, because almost I feel like I wouldn't know what a 10, 12, 13-year-old girls are interested in nowadays. So having that, like making it exciting for them, making it, you know, feel like it can apply to their interest. Absolutely, and they don't really have to change who they are to be going to tech, because I think that's what we do a lot of things about. And you know, you go into the office, like I used to have that, it's like you go into the office and then you talk about the latest computer game or football or whatever it is, and I'm not interested in talking about that. I really want to talk about shoes and bag, which is very uncommon in the world of tech, supposedly. But
there's tech companies out there that are within the fashion industry.
And I think allowing people to be themselves and to work on stuff they care about, and that's what we need to show the next generation of girls and women in tech, that they can be whoever they are, and tech is there to pursue their interest and their passion, rather than the other way around. It's like, this is a tech person, you need to fit into this box, otherwise you're going to struggle.
And work on this product that has nothing to do with what you're interested in. It's like I've come across some companies out there, like really, really cool AI tech companies that were founded and built by women, but their product is obviously, it's very targeted towards women, but it's like it's necessary, like an app that has AI built in that's going to help with breastfeeding and raising a child. And then there was another one that helps with IVF and basically ensures that there's really positive embryos that are hopefully going to take effect. And it's like all these different tech companies that are founded by women that actually are going to have some dramatic change in women's lives, and just aiding benefits and helping them, and it's incredible to see that there are some really interesting ideas out there. So it's like, come on, get more of them.
Yes, and we need to do some of that for I think for girls as well,
and just show them that there are these paths that you can go down, and even if there is an interest in shoes and bags, build an AI app around it. Just do something, because it's like there's definitely a market there. There's definitely a product that can be sold, and I mean, the planet's built of 50% men, 50% women. So there's there's the consumers out there as well.
There's the market for it, 100%. Yes.
So it's like it's half and half. There's a 50-50 ratio. But yeah, no, I agree, and definitely having talks. I think. Because, I mean, even when I was in school and I was a kid, I don't think I ever had an option of going to any kind of talk or open day or anything like that to talk about tech. I don't even think I ever had the option to even learn to code in school. Yeah. So even just having the option of being able to be like, oh, here's a Python programming, here's a mentor that can help you, give it a go, give it a whirl, see what you think. I don't think that's offered enough. During 100%. Education,
it just doesn't ignite your imagination. I think we need a lot more.
Yeah, there needs to be a lot more sort of free reign. Yeah, free reign of kids be able to choose whatever they want to do in their career, in their education. Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like for me it was like, oh, do maths, English, science, and then you got a choice of 7 options, and that's it. And it's just like, well, I guess I'm going to go into one of these things that I'm never going to do.
Yeah, I've heard of I know there are some code clubs in some parts of the UK.
And there are some schools that have it as well.
They are. I think that a lot of the code clubs, I know some of my colleagues used to do it, and they're almost run by volunteers or people that are in the industry that are trying to encourage more people. But I almost think there should be something more broad, almost at country level, that allows us to do this more effective.
Exactly, and allow them to have that choice, and even just taster days, and just oh, here's a taster of this, going in just going around traveling schools and education facilities, and just being here's a taster of this, here's data science, this is machine learning, this is NLP, and all these different things, but maybe
we'll
soon.
Get there. Yes.
We'll get there. And finally, just to wrap up this lovely conversation, I wanted to ask you for one piece of advice that you wish you had received when starting out in your career as a machine learning engineer / data scientist.
Yeah, I would say worry less. I think I did worry about the small little things and trying to preface everything. Yeah. And I think over the years I started to worrying less about those things, and just again trying to be myself as much as possible and just say the things the way I think them, because I've had the experience, but I think it does take a while to build in that confidence and worry less about what's going to happen when you make those choices.
Absolutely.
And experiment with different things, different way of doing things. I think I'm doing a lot of that in the last maybe 5 years. I've been experimenting loads, and that's really took both of my learning and growth to really whole new levels.
And just creates new exciting things that you can look forward to, and you've got all these different things going on. It stops you from worrying as much.
Yes.
Keep yourself busy.
I think I do worry a lot less now, but I'm still on that journey.
But it's good. And some great advice. And it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Bianca. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been brilliant.
Pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing whatever is to be brought from your future. So good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. And thank you for a lovely chat.
Thank you as well.
It.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Vision to Venture. If you're listening, make sure to give us a 5-star review. And if you're watching, like and subscribe to listen to more inspiring stories from leaders in the tech space.